Most women have been conditioned to believe that the best way to get a man to like them is by being overly agreeable, constantly available, and making him feel like he's the center of their universe from the moment they meet. But let me tell you something that flips this whole idea on its head. Because when it comes to attraction, what you do, and that's where these forbidden phrases come in, they work not because they're rude or manipulative, far from it, but because they trigger something deep in a man's psychology that most people completely overlook. Here's what happens when you shift your communication slightly and start using phrases that introduce just a hint of uncertainty. You create intrigue, not confusion, not games, but a little emotional tension, the kind that makes someone lean in closer, want to know more, want to prove themselves. When you use the kinds of phrases we'll get into, you're showing that you're not instantly sold, not fully impressed yet, and that you're someone who's used to being pursued, not the one doing the chasing. Think about this. When something is easily available to us, we subconsciously start to devalue it. It's just human nature. And that doesn't just apply to luxury products or limited edition sneakers, it applies to people too. If someone comes into your life and instantly gives you 100% of their attention, energy, and emotional investment without even knowing you deeply yet, your brain says, if they're giving this to me so easily, how rare or valuable can it really be? That's harsh, but it's real. And on the flip side, when someone has standards, when they hold something back, not in a cold way, but in a confident, playful, emotionally intelligent way, you start thinking, wait, what's going on here? Why aren't they trying to impress me? Why do I feel like I want to impress them? That's the power of reverse psychology in attraction. These phrases are like emotional curveballs. They disrupt the pattern most guys are used to. If he's used to women showering him with praise, laughing at everything he says, instantly validating him, then suddenly you come along and say something that challenges that norm, you instantly become different. You stand out. He'll replay your words in his head on the drive home. He'll tell his friends about you without even realizing he's doing it. Because your energy wasn't trying to hook him. You were already hooked on your own life. The key is subtlety. You're not being cold. You're not putting up walls. You're inviting him into a dynamic that says, I'm worth the effort. And here's the secret. High value people make us work a little for their attention, and we love them for it. The effort makes the connection feel earned. And what we earn, we value more. Now, I know someone might be thinking, but won't that push him away? And my answer is, the right kind of man won't be pushed away. He'll be pulled in. Because quality men want someone with self-respect, someone who's not just saying yes to everyone. These phrases aren't about rejection. They're about setting the tone. And that tone is, I don't need to chase. If you want me, show me. Let me be clear, this is not about manipulation, it's about authenticity. You're not pretending to be hard to get. You're actually just being someone who knows their worth and isn't handing out emotional investment like free samples. When you say something that challenges a guy, even a little, when you throw in a line that catches him off guard in a good way, you create a spark. It's playful, it's fun, and it opens the door to a much deeper connection because it starts from a place of mutual curiosity rather than desperation. So when you say something that introduces a little bit of friction, not drama, but friction, what you're really doing is igniting chemistry. And if you can spark chemistry in the right way, that's when a man starts chasing. Not out of ego, but out of genuine interest. And once you understand that, everything changes. The first phrase I want to give you, the one that might sound counterintuitive at first, is this: you're not really my type. Now, when I say that in my seminars or to clients, I usually get this wide-eyed reaction like, wait, what? Won't that offend him? Won't that make him back off? But stay with me, because when you understand how and when to use it, it becomes one of the most powerful tools for flipping the dynamic and creating real attraction. You see, we're so used to thinking that attraction is about giving someone approval. Like if you like a guy, the natural instinct is to let him know through compliments, flirtation, showing interest, because we think that's what moves things forward. And yes, there's a time and place for that. But the problem is most people skip ahead. They give too much too soon. And when that happens, there's no spark, there's no chase, there's no sense of excitement or discovery. What this phrase does, "you're not really my type," is it introduces just the right amount of resistance. It creates what I call constructive tension, not rejection, not cruelty, but a gentle challenge that makes him stop in his tracks and think, wait a second, what do you mean I'm not your type? Suddenly, he's paying attention. He's no longer sitting back passively waiting for you to impress him. He's leaning in. He's engaged. He wants to know more. This is the moment where you've completely changed the emotional energy in the room. Before, maybe he thought he was in control of the dynamic. Maybe he's used to people showing interest without him having to try too hard. But now there's mystery. There's something unpredictable about you. You've just sent a signal that says, I don't just fall for someone because they're good looking or charming. I've got standards. I'm selective. And here's the beautiful part. You can say it playfully. It doesn't have to be serious. In fact, it's better when it's said with a little smile, like you're teasing. You're not really my type, but you're growing on me. See how that works? You've created tension and softened it at the same time. You're not pushing him away. You're pulling him in, just not in the way he expected. It's intriguing. It makes him want to prove you wrong in a good way. That's the moment he starts chasing, because now it's about more than just attraction. It's about validation. He wants to know, can I win this woman over? And that's exactly where you want to be, not because you're trying to play games, but because you're shifting the dynamic from you proving yourself to him stepping up. This is especially effective when a man is used to attention. If he's attractive, successful, or just confident, chances are he's not used to hearing that someone isn't instantly into him. So when you deliver this phrase, you separate yourself from every other woman who just defaulted to flattery. You show that you're different, and difference is magnetic. Now, of course, this isn't about being negative or putting someone down. You're not saying you're not good enough for me. That's not the energy. The energy is playful, confident, and slightly mysterious. You're saying you're not what I usually go for, but I'm open to being surprised. That gives him just enough of a gap to want to bridge. It makes him feel like there's something to earn, and people value what they have to earn, or so protect your own value. Because let's face it, how often do people fall into the trap of over pursuing someone they barely know just because they feel instant chemistry? Chemistry is great, but chemistry alone isn't enough to sustain a connection. What you want is investment. An investment comes when someone feels like there's something special about you, but they don't have you completely figured out yet. And saying you're not really my type is the verbal equivalent of stepping back just enough to make him step forward. It's not about manipulation. It's about balance. You're signaling that your attention isn't automatic, it's earned. And when a man feels like your attention has value, it becomes so much more powerful. That's when the chase truly begins. The second phrase is one of my favorites because it's so subtle yet so powerful. It's this: I don't need you, I just enjoy you. Now, if you say that to a man, most of the time, he won't know what hit him, because that one sentence communicates more about your value, your confidence, and your emotional independence than a dozen compliments ever could. It's the kind of phrase that immediately changes the dynamic between you and him. It shifts the energy, it sets a new tone, and it's one that he now has to rise to meet. Let's break down what that phrase really means. First, you're telling him you're whole. You're not out here looking for someone to complete you or validate you or fix something in your life. That in itself is incredibly attractive, because neediness, whether it shows up as desperation, over texting, over explaining, or trying too hard, is one of the fastest ways to kill attraction. And on the flip side, someone who says, I enjoy you, but I don't need you, comes across as grounded, emotionally strong, and in control of their own happiness. And here's what that does to a man. It creates this subtle tension. It says, you don't have power over me just because I like you. My life was already good before you arrived, and it will still be good if you leave. That's not arrogance. That's not pretending. That's security. And let me tell you something about high quality men. They're not intimidated by security. They're drawn to it because it signals emotional maturity. It shows that you're a grown up in a world full of people trying to fill emotional holes with romantic attention. You see, most relationships that start fast and crash quickly are built on need. One person says, I need you to validate me. And the other person goes, I need you to need me. That might feel passionate at first, but it creates a lopsided dynamic where one person is constantly chasing and the other is constantly trying to reassure. Eventually, that turns into resentment, insecurity, or both. But when you lead with enjoyment instead of need, you create a relationship dynamic based on freedom. You're choosing to be there. You're choosing him, and that makes you a prize. Think about it from his perspective. A woman says, I don't need you, I just enjoy you. What's the emotional response? He thinks, wow, she's strong, she's happy in her own skin, she's not looking for me to save her. That makes him lean in. That makes him curious. That makes him want to earn your time rather than assume it's his by default. Because now he knows that your presence is optional, not automatic. And anything that feels like a gift is cherished more. This phrase also helps when you're dealing with men who fear commitment. Some guys pull back the moment things start getting emotionally intense, not because they don't like you, but because they feel pressure. They're afraid that your happiness now rests on their shoulders. But when you say, I don't need you, I just enjoy you, you're removing that pressure entirely. You're giving him space to breathe. And ironically, that freedom makes him want to stay close because you're not clinging, you're inviting. This phrase is also deeply self-respecting. It says you're not going to settle for being someone's emotional project. You're not molding yourself into what you think he wants. You're simply sharing your life with someone who adds value to it. And if they stop adding value, you'll be fine. You're not attached to a fantasy. You're grounded in reality. And what this does over time is build a relationship based on authenticity. You're not staying because you're scared of being alone. You're staying because it feels good. That difference is everything. Because the moment someone knows that you're only there because you want to be, not because you're afraid of losing them, they'll treat your presence as something precious. They'll respect your boundaries more. They'll check in with you more. They'll be more consistent, more attentive, and more invested. All because you made it clear your joy isn't tied to them. They're a beautiful addition, not a missing piece. And that's the kind of energy that doesn't just attract a man, it keeps him chasing. There's a phrase that's going to sound so simple when you hear it, but the way it works is anything but simple. It's this: I'm not sure we're on the same level. Now, this one is a game changer because it taps into one of the most powerful psychological triggers in attraction. The fear of not being enough for someone you actually want. And when used right, this phrase plants a seed in his mind that makes him see you differently, not just as someone he likes, but as someone he doesn't want to lose. Let me walk you through how this works. When you tell a guy, I'm not sure we're on the same level, what you're really saying is, I'm evaluating you, I'm not blindly sold, I have standards, and I'm still figuring out if you meet them. That kind of energy, it's electric. Because so often people go into early connections trying to prove they're good enough, trying to be agreeable, likable, low minimum, and easy to get along with. And don't get me wrong, being kind and open is great. But if that's all you bring to the table, you don't give anyone a reason to rise to the occasion. This phrase flips the script. Now he's wondering if he measures up. He's wondering if he's impressing you. And you know what happens when someone starts thinking that way? They show up better. They try harder. They become more intentional with their words, more consistent with their actions, and more present in their attention. Because suddenly they're aware that you're not handing over your affection and commitment just because there's chemistry. You're holding back just enough to create respect. Let's be clear. This isn't about making someone feel it's not about arrogance. The tone matters. When you say, I'm not sure we're on the same level, you say it from a place of curiosity, not superiority. You're not declaring it as a fact. You're offering it as a gentle challenge, a moment that says, I like you, but I value myself enough to question whether this is right for me. That's incredibly attractive because it shows emotional intelligence, it shows backbone, and it shows that you're not desperate to fit into someone else's world. You're inviting them to rise into yours. What's really beautiful about this phrase is that it creates a new kind of tension, not the negative, draining kind, but the exciting, dynamic kind. It sparks something in a man because now, instead of thinking, how do I keep her attention? He's thinking, what do I need to do to be seen as someone she would choose? And the moment he starts thinking that way, everything changes. His effort increases, his investment deepens, his pride kicks in, because no man wants to feel like he's not enough for someone he genuinely wants. It's also a test of emotional maturity. A guy who's just looking for validation or easy attention will feel threatened by a phrase like this. He'll either get defensive or disappear. And that's a good thing, because anyone who's scared off by the mere suggestion that they need to grow or rise to the occasion, that's not your person. But a man who's confident, emotionally available, and truly interested in building something real, he will lean in. He'll want to understand what you mean. He'll ask questions, he'll reflect, and he'll come back stronger. This phrase also reinforces that your standards are alive. They're not theoretical. They show up in how you speak, how you make decisions, and how you engage with someone you're dating. And when a man sees that you're not blindly following your feelings, that you're actually assessing alignment, it makes him see you as a woman of substance, a woman who values connection, yes, but values herself more. And isn't that the kind of person we all want to be? The kind who can feel deeply, connect fully, and still hold space for our own worth. That's what this phrase represents. It's not about making someone chase you through mind games. It's about setting the tone so that if someone does chase you, they're doing it because they respect you, not because they're trying to control you or impress you for a moment. I'm not sure we're on the same level. Is a mirror. It reflects the gap between where someone is and what you know you deserve. And if the right person sees that mirror and they care enough, they'll step up and meet you there. And that's when you know the chase isn't just emotional, it's intentional.